Gadget Martian here at the Computer History Museum here in Mountain View, California. Let's go check it out. Let's see what we got here. Retro games. This is a newer exhibit. Wow, look, you got the first Atari 2600. I don't know if it's the first one, but that's how I remember it back in the day. A couple of old popular games. There's a whole story about Atari making the movie from an actual game. That wasn't as popular, and it was kind of a disaster, but you could check out a different video about that one. Then you have Pitfall, Dig Dug, Space Invaders, all the classics, Pac-Man, Star Wars. I'm sure I had all of these back in the day. Now that's probably original, that shirt right there. Then you had the Commodore 64. We used to have a bunch of games on the Commodore 64, and it was a really, really good first kind of personal computer with a keyboard. Of course, that's a little different than the actual game system like an Atari 2600. And then a very old-fashioned way of loading the games up. Castle Wolfenstein. I remember that one back in the day. And then, of course, the joystick was kind of similar to the Atari one. What do we got here? Look at this. Game Boy. All kinds of different versions, I guess, over the years. Man, this was one of the big popular game systems back in the day. I don't know if I can see the writing for you because of the shadows. I'm gonna have to take a picture of that afterwards, but it does have a description. Then it looks like they're old commercials that are playing on this. And then they got the arcade one-ups. Would have been kind of nice if they had the actual original arcades, but those are a little harder to come by. So you got your arcade one-ups, which these run anywhere from like $300 to $500. You can buy all kinds of different ones. And this company's only been around over the last maybe 5 years, I'm guessing, or more. But those are certainly fun. Look at this. The Sega Genesis has Mortal Kombat, which was very popular, of course, in the full-size arcade game that they had. The joystick's a little different. Definitely a very popular game system to have. Then you have the Xbox here with Halo. That was one of the first popular next generation game systems. And of course, Fable. Very nice. And then of course, the all famous PS2. I think first they had the PS1, the PS2, the PS3, the PS4, and now we're up to the PS5. So they have it kind of like here to check out. You can't really play any of these games, but it is kind of cool that they actually have them here on display. This being a computer museum. Game on. Just a whole lot of history under this glass. Look at the Newton. I used to have one of those. The Pilot, the Nokia. Whole lot of history here. Sega Genesis. guess Apple. This might be the first Apple laptop. I'm not sure. It looks like a laptop. Oh, Netscape. That used to be a popular search engine back in the day. Of course, Windows 95. I think the original Windows was Windows 3.1 maybe. A lot of history. It was like the world's first hard drive, and it had to access these big, huge wafers to get data out of there.
One was it pressurizes that tube. It has some little pins that push these guys together towards the disk. Now, if they push them towards the disk and it touches the disk, it'll be a disaster at 85 miles an hour. So this is a magnified view of one of these read-write heads in here, and the side that faces the disk has 6 little holes in it that bleed air. So when you push it towards the disk, it never actually touches it, it floats on a film of air. So it's like one of those hockey tables, except the air comes out of the puck instead of out of the disk. And you can see in this picture, it's just a little...
The Computer History Museum actually has the exact equipment that they used back in 1999. Whenever you did a search inquiry, they would actually access these stacked PCs to gather the information to get you through the Google search. Here's some also trinkets that they have and mementos that they have, and also a picture of the 2 founding starters of Google.
That this was a technology that was going to change every single business.
Lots of money is going into technology stocks because those are the stocks that are rising.
This is a whole new way of doing business. Whimsical corporate leaders. Extreme corporate culture.
You could check out the other video I have on the history of Atari, but Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, as well as Al Alcorn, kind of the technical person behind it, set this first Pong machine up at a tavern in Sunnyvale. They received a call from the bar owner on the machine getting jammed up, thinking that there was something wrong with it, and it turns out it was just that people were jamming it with so many quarters and everything. So this became really super popular game, which pretty much launched the Atari name and the company, and locally here to the Silicon Valley area. Here's his original badge, employee number 3, and then they also have a listing or a display of all of the home video type machines and devices that they had to start the popularity of Pong into the home environment, so you didn't have to go to a tavern. So the History Museum actually has a lot of displays and a lot of the original equipment used during this historical time, which essentially started the video game market, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry today. You see some popular games for the time on the Atari 2600, as well as the assembly line here showing Bushnell on the assembly line in Sunnyvale area. This is an actual circuit board, the original circuit board prototype for the Atari 2600, which is pretty cool that they actually have this on display. You see how like simple it started out as a design and as an idea, and then eventually once they started packaging it, it became a very super popular home video game console. Before the PlayStations and the Xboxes of the world, before the Genesis and all of these other Game Boy type home systems. This was kind of the predecessor, the upgrade to the Atari 2600, which wasn't as popular as the original. Ralph Baer created the first home entertainment system. This was before Atari got into the game, so this was the inspiration that eventually led to Atari coming up with the Pong game, and then of course the whole arcade industry and video game industry from that point on. very historic. But you see how primitive this looks? It was really like the beginning stages of a whole multi-billion-dollar industry that we have today. Really cool. The TSR-80, put out by Radio Shack back in the day. You can go into Radio Shack and get this computer. It basically came with everything that you needed. A screen for it, just all the devices, all the instruments, everything you needed. The only thing you needed to do is just bring some electricity to the game. Over the years, there's the Commodore PET. Over the years, just home computers just started to advance, and companies were using more and more ways and devices and models that they put out. This one I actually used the Apple IIe I used at school, like in junior high back in the day. So this was a way of Apple getting into the education industry. As I mentioned before, there were just so many different companies that started coming out with these smart devices and stuff, and the predecessors to the 2600, Atari came out with another home computer type system. This one looks like it's from Sweden, so we didn't see this in the US much, but just all of these companies all around the world. The Commodore Amiga, that was very popular. That started bringing you more into like the console type or the tower type computers. That was kind of the beginning. This one was the Commodore 64. Everything you needed was built into the keyboard, the whole computer and everything, which is really cool. You just needed to find a way to access the data. The VIC-20 I think was before that time. So at the History Museum they just have a collection of just all of these companies out. So some people might be a little more attached to some of these devices than others. I certainly used a couple of these back in the day, and this just kind of brings you back to the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and the 80s of the beginning of the video game, home industry, video game industry, as well as the home computer and the home PC way of life back then, before the internet even came around. This is kind of like a way we kind of passed time and entertained ourselves. The Pilot, these were small computers that we used with little wands or little devices to interact with it. The Palm Pilot, that was very, very popular. And this is just a collection of just so many different technologies that started to develop over the time. Palm was a really big player of the kind of like taking the traditional file system and putting it into a computer device that you can access electronically. So these are listing examples of just all the technology that was the beginning stages of calculators, palm devices that you can write with and draw with and access information and type with using a electronic pen, as well as some of the games and calculators that were available for the time. You can see all of this stuff in detail and read up about it coming here to the History Museum. Really great place to learn about history and actually see it in person.
By the 1970s, scientists were building robots that worked independently. Shaky could process and figure out a plan all by itself, or herself.
Another cool area, just kind of displaying all the different types of robotics and all the small little robots that are beginning. Of course, now we have the Tesla robots and some of these advanced robots, but these were back in the day some of the ways we were using robotic technology to interact with humans. Now, of course, after AI was developed, now it's even way more advanced than this. Actual computers thinking for themselves. Very fascinating. Kind of cool example of how much these computer systems cost back in the day. I think this was probably at the time, maybe not by today's standards, but as you can see, just very, very expensive. And so when we complain about buying a $1,500 computer, just imagine how expensive and bulky and primitive they were back in the day.
Cray was able to do what he did best.
Back in the day, the supercomputer was this Cray computer, is what they called it, and it looks like someplace you can sit down and have a cup of coffee. But the Cray supercomputer was the beginning of the sophistication of computers with all the wires and stuff and complication. Nowhere near compared to the supercomputers of today, but this gentleman right here is considered the father of the supercomputer, which is a pretty cool situation. But look how big and bulky this device was for its day. But this was the way they used calculations, mathematical calculations, and ways to kind of find things out faster than what the human body or the human mind could figure out at the time. There's so much more to the History Computer Museum and so many more exhibits. I just tapped into just a few examples. So if you're in the Bay Area, I certainly recommend coming out here and seeing what you can discover. Have a good day, and thank you for watching this video.